Third down and 20.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. We're on episode 41. I'm joined with the usual crew today, Frank, Jake, and Lounis. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch, we have a new background that Frank put in a lot of time making. I think it looks pretty cool. How's everyone today?
Good to be back.
I'm good, man. I have tomorrow off, which is really nice. Shout out.
Nice.
Them making Juneteenth a national holiday.
Oh, see, I did not get that off.
Let's get into it. Enough of this Lounis bull crap. I want to talk about some football.
All right, well, we're talking about your division, you Steelers fan. We're breaking down the AFC North. We don't really have any news or notes to get into. There's nothing really going on in the league right now other than random OTA hype. So I guess I'll just take us right into it then. The conductor, JT, we're breaking down the AFC North, and we're going to start off with quarterbacks like we did last week. We have Joe Burrow and Brandon Allen from the Bengals. We have Lamar Jackson, Trace McSorley on the Ravens, Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum on the Browns, and then Ben Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, and Dwayne Haskins on the Steelers. We're using the keep trade cut ratings again, which, I mean, they're not perfect, but it is crowdsourced, so it kind of gives us the best general idea of like what's going on in dynasty leagues, how people are rated. So basically all of the backups are not ranked other than Dwayne Haskins, who's quarterback 49. And then you have Joe Burrow as quarterback 8, Lamar Jackson quarterback 5, Baker Mayfield quarterback 14, and Ben Roethlisberger quarterback 40. So I think Ben Roethlisberger is a good place to start, guys, because quarterback 40, we all said was underrated, and basically all of us said he's the most underrated quarterback in this division. Anyone have any guesses as to why he's quarterback 40?
Well, I just think it's people thinking this is his last year playing. And so it's, what would you rank someone who's probably going to give you a QB2 season and retire after this year? I wouldn't go that low at all, but that's what I would guess the thinking is.
Well, let me stop you right there then. Do we all think this is Ben Roethlisberger's last season? Because personally, I think he still has one more after this.
I think he's gone.
He's been saying he's going to retire for 2-3 years now. I just think of after this one, there's no way.
Even this offseason, people were like he might, but then he decided to come back for one more year. So I really wouldn't be surprised.
Dude, if you think about Ben Roethlisberger's retirement track, it's like the whole retirement talks for him started around like 4 to 5 years ago, probably, right?
Yeah.
It's gotta be now. So like if you think about this is gonna be a stretch. If you think about that in terms of like a relationship, eventually we're starting to get to the point where you got to pop the question. Am I right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, you're right.
You're starting to get there. What is it, like 7
4 or
years
5
or something? It's the general rule of thumb. It's like, okay, after 7 years, it's like, dude, what's going on here? What are we doing? Like, we're almost getting to that point. We're getting to that point, guys.
So you're gonna. All right,
Jake's just like already. Smiling, nodding.
Great start to the episode.
We're off the rails already. The Steelers.
Well, good to be back, guys. Good to be back.
Steelers divorce from Ben Roethlisberger, I think, is going to be postponed. I truly believe he's still got 2 more years in him. I mean,
what would you pay for him?
If I'm a quarterback needy team and I'm a contender, a late second, right? Like mid to late second, I'd pay for Ben Roethlisberger. What about you guys?
That's the general rule of thumb for late, like mid QB2 1 to 2 year rentals is like, okay, they're generally worth a late second or like one of the first picks in the 3rd round, I think, generally speaking. That's what I've seen.
According to Keep Trade Cut, which isn't always accurate, like you could get him for even like a mid 3rd, which I don't really believe you can, but that's what Keep Trade Cut is currently saying. I'd give up a late second, though, if I really need a quarterback. I just think, though, that Ben Roethlisberger probably wouldn't be the way to go. Like, I think I'd rather pay up a little bit more and get, like, a Kirk Cousins, where I'm getting, like, 4 years out of him at least.
Kirk Cousins is a tough one because I feel like the Kirk Cousins owner doesn't want to sell for a mid-second just for that. But
here's someone that you can get. I think because I'm a current owner of them, and you could pay up for the risk plus the upside of Jameis Winston for. I mean, pay up. You raise your late second to like a middle to late second, probably like a 207, 208, 206 in this year's draft compared to paying like a 211, 212. And you can pay up for Jameis Winston while you have the risk of him maybe not being the starter and completely exploding. You also have the upside of getting a multiple year starting quarterback and a guy that has the talent that can make almost like a Ryan Tannehill-esque turnaround. It's not completely out of the question.
Definitely. I think it's going to be tougher than Tua. I'm surprised you said like that low. I would think
dude, I feel like 206 is not a bad deal for Jameis because here's the thing. I'm pretty scared of Jameis not being the starting quarterback, like legitimately. And if I don't have Taysom Hill, I can finally cash in, right? I've been waiting to sell Jameis as a Jameis owner. The most you could ever get was you were flirting with a late second, if getting that at all while he's a backup. Now you can get that mid-second round pick, which could be a pretty decent receiver. Rondale Moore maybe might be on the board in your draft, or Trey Sermon or Michael Carter, like someone that might, if you're a team like mine in our league where I have a bunch of quarterbacks already, I could get someone that will help my team a lot more than Jameis Winston. I can understand holding him, but now you can actually cash in.
It's funny you said 206, Frank, because I think we talked about that exact trade, Jameis for 206. But, yeah, I mean, a little off topic going into the NFC South, but I do like Jameis, and I do think he is a good price to get him at that mid-second right there. Anyone have anything else on the Steelers quarterbacks here?
What about the backups? Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins. Lounis, I saw that you put Dwayne Haskins as the backup to own. It's not really saying much, but you did put him as that.
I don't think he's going to be their franchise quarterback like after Big Ben, but I just think out of these guys, I think Baker, Burrow, and Lamar aren't going anywhere for a while for their teams. And then I'm thinking like who has the chance to maybe end up playing like 3-4 games this year? Like kind of highest chance of maybe a slight injury, probably Ben. Like I can understand Lamar because he runs a lot, but he's been able to stay healthy for the most part. Well, so none of these backups in the division are really enticing. I wouldn't own any if I didn't own the starter.
The one that I would contend is actually who I have as my backup to own, and that's Brandon Allen, which kind of hurts to say. But like Joe Burrow, I know training camp said that like, oh, he's doing well coming back from the knee injury. Like he should be good to go for week 1. But like it still gives me concern that like their offensive line, while they did shore it up a little bit, is still not like an elite offensive line. And now Joe Burrow is coming off a knee injury already. So I am a little concerned about Joe Burrow's protection and how he will do. So that's why I do think Brandon Allen would be the one to have a chance. I do think any of these backup quarterbacks, like none of them will actually have like another chance to be a starter for a year. I don't see any of these guys ever going into training camp being like, oh, this is the year I'm starting. Like they're all kind of wasted.
I mean, we saw Brandon Allen as a starter in Denver for a little bit. We saw how that went. So I don't think anyone's going to really try it again.
So is anyone in the belief that Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins could take the reins post Roethlisberger?
Oh, no.
No.
Their future quarterback is not on the roster right now.
Yeah, this feels like the Steelers' quarterback room right now feels like the running back room that they had last year with James Conner, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, Jalen Samuels. Like it feels like the exact same thing, just at the quarterback spot.
Yeah. So none of the backups in this division are that enticing. It's just kind of pick whichever's your favorite.
We're split. Do you guys see that? We're split on who we thought was the most overrated. Frank and I were on the same side saying Joe Burrow, while Lounis, you actually said Mason Rudolph, and Jake, you said Lamar Jackson.
Lounis, how can a guy that is not ranked
that's how bad he is
be the most overrated player?
That's how bad he is. I don't want to see him.
Lounis out on Mason Rudolph.
Dude, I mean, you should at least throw that on Haskins. Haskins is at least somehow ranked.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph isn't even ranked.
No, but Haskins is the backup to own, Frank. You can't be the most overrated and the backup
to own.
Oh my goodness.
Get Mason Rudolph out of here.
Neither of those guys are good.
So are we moving on to Burrow here?
Well, yeah, I do feel like we've taken
And
time
Lamar.
before to talk about Burrow. Yeah, we'll spend a little bit on Burrow real quick. I think we've talked about him before. It's just hard to have him that high as quarterback 8 when we've only seen basically half a season from him. And I get that he's got even better weapons now, but like I'm still not completely convinced on Joe Burrow. Like it took a lot of passes for him to be productive. So is that going to be the same script going into each game for the Bengals? I get that their defense isn't great and that he should be passing a lot, but like, I don't know. It gives me a little concern to have him so high up, comparatively speaking.
I think he's overrated. I wouldn't say he's that far overrated. I mean, I would probably drop him down to what, QB 10, 11, like not very far. Like you're still gonna have him as a dynasty QB1. He had a good rookie year. He was the number 1 overall pick. We've seen quarterbacks come back from knee injuries between, Deshaun Watson did it his rookie year. He tore his ACL. Tom Brady's torn ACL. A bunch of these quarterbacks have torn an ACL and come back. I understand his was pretty bad, and his offensive line was not improved significantly. But I just think he's talented enough and in a good situation with now college teammate Jamar Chase there, T. Higgins there, Mixon behind him. I just think this offense is going to be pretty good in general. So
I will say on Keep Trade Cut, the difference from dropping Burrow from quarterback 8 to quarterback 10 is the same as dropping him from quarterback, let me check again real quick, quarterback 12 to quarterback 20. So, like, there's a big gap when you start, like, talking about those high-rated numbers and dropping them down a couple spots. At that point, though, it is kind of preference when you're talking quarterback 12 to 20. All right, well, Frank, did you have anything to add about Burrow, or do we want to talk about Lamar?
I don't really see the point of paying for Burrow right now at his current price.
He is highly priced.
I look at Burrow and I see a quarterback that is in the worst team in a really competitive, tough division. He has the worst coach in the division. He has the worst offensive line in the division and this is a division that not only is talented, has just had absolutely ferocious defenses year in and year out. And the former laughingstock is now one of the favorites to win in the Browns. So I'm betting on Joe Burrow. And everyone always says, like, oh, well, quarterbacks are always impacted by their situation, right? Like, if this guy's not in a good – you look at Carson Wentz last year, right? Oh, well, Carson Wentz, it wasn't him, it was the situation. And you can use – that's been used countless and countless times. Well, if that's actually true, why am I buying Joe Burrow at quarterback 8 price? I don't really care about the receivers. I don't really care about this, that, or the other. Even if Joe Burrow's good, I think that his stats would be more like Baker Mayfield's than like Lamar Jackson's from a fantasy perspective. This season.
Yeah.
That's very fair. No, I'm wondering with Joe Burrow, because you mentioned like the buying Joe Burrow, which exact rookie pick do you think Joe Burrow is worth in this upcoming draft? Like if you
in a rookie draft?
Yeah, like so say you're trading Joe Burrow.
What 102?
Here's the thing that I have is that I don't think that Joe Burrow is a bad player. I like Joe Burrow's talent. I think he's a good player. I just think that he is wildly overrated. I don't think I would pick Joe Burrow in the first round of a startup. What have I seen? What am I buying into? Like, compare Joe Burrow to Dak Prescott. I'm in a startup. Yeah, okay. I get Dak Prescott early in the first compared to picking Joe Burrow late in the first. But the value difference for that compared to, okay, would I rather just wait until the 4th or the 5th or beyond and pick up Baker Mayfield? I think that that's the problem I have with Joe Burrow. If you plopped him in a rookie draft again, okay, that's fine. I'll take him with a top 5 pick. I'm not going to be upset. Like, that's the price that I'm willing to buy him at.
To all of you, is Lawrence the only rookie quarterback you're taking over Burrow?
Yeah. Because I mean,
Lance would make me think.
we've seen from Joe Burrow that like he can play in the NFL. He is a good quarterback. Like none of these guys are proven. The only one that I'm willing to take the risk on is Trevor Lawrence.
I know that's I don't know how Burrow's mobility is going to be post that knee injury. The rushing upside of Lance is what makes me like. I think I'd still pick Burrow, but Lance makes it really close for me. Because I was just thinking where Burrow would go if he was in this rookie pool.
I don't understand how Joe Burrow's ahead of Russell Wilson. I cannot fathom that.
It's simply age.
Ages.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the thing is that I know
JT.
I'm getting probably 5 years out of Russell Wilson, and
Probably more.
like, what am I going to expect? Joe Burrow to be a top 10 quarterback for 10 years? That you can't do that with anyone. You can't even. The only one you can kind of do that with is like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I think those are the only two guys that you can kind of look outside of 5 years, and even then. We thought that with Andrew Luck a couple of years ago. And yes, that's a weird scenario, but that's life, dude. This just happens, right?
Yeah. I think Kyler and what's his name? Chargers QB. Herbert are close to that.
Okay,
tier.
Herbert, I'll give you. But Kyler's unprecedented. We haven't seen a quarterback of his skill set survive for years and years and years. We just really haven't.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same argument against Lamar. Like, Lamar, great player. He'll help you out a ton. We could move into him off me saying this. It's just we just haven't seen mobile quarterbacks last that long in the modern era. It hasn't happened.
The one thing I will say about Kyler compared to Lamar is Kyler has an arm. They both have an arm, but I think Kyler's is better.
Kyler's much better.
All right, well, yeah. Jake, start your Lamar. Why is Lamar the most overrated?
We've done this too many times. I'm not saying he is overrated. He's QB5. The problem I have with him is exactly what Frank said, is we've never seen a running quarterback go significantly long. I won a championship with Lamar last season, and I traded him away. I don't regret it. I mean, I've been down on the Ravens, and everyone knows it. But I just don't trust a quarterback that's going to run the ball, 15 or more times a game. I know he has this weird ability to, like, not get a clean hit on him. He always seems to slip out of a clean hit, and he always does it. But it only takes one. We've seen it. It only takes one clean hit to knock these kind of guys out. And we saw it with RG3. His whole rookie season, he was untouchable, never took a clean hit. And then it took one clean hit in the playoffs, and the guy busted a knee, and then he loses a step. And now he's not the same player. That's all it takes for these guys. And it's just, you're always walking a fine line with me that I wanted to just cash out on assets that I felt more comfortable with. Obviously, I see the upside with Lamar. His rushing upside is significant. The offense in the Ravens is probably going to be pretty good, even though I don't want to admit it. And I won't admit it because I don't like a lot of the players there. But it's what it is. I mean, I'm not personally going to be investing in Lamar Jackson, but I know everyone will, and I can't blame him because if he stays healthy, there's no one we've ever seen like him.
Yeah, I struggle with Lamar. I just think his arm gets a little too much hate. Like, I think he's a bad passer.
He's not accurate. He's not nearly.
He's not accurate to the right side of the field, the deep right. That's like the only place he's not accurate.
Wait, are we talking about Lamar not being accurate?
Yeah, he's not accurate to the deep right. That's all I think.
I don't know what you guys are saying. I feel like Lamar's pretty damn accurate. I feel like that's his biggest
I'm on your
strength.
Side. No,
I think
I'm on your side.
I think
his
a big
deep right
thing
is the only
with
place
the
he can't
Lamar
throw.
debate is kind of how you think he develops as a passer. I think it ultimately comes down to that.
I think Lamar gets too much hate. I'm with Frank where I think Lamar is pretty, like, his deep right. If you look at his like passing chart, like, he can't hit there. Like, he's not good passing to the deep right. But anything over the center of the field, anything intermediate, anything short range, like, Lamar's a fine passer. And then he's got his rushing upside, obviously. And now he's actually getting like true. Well, some of you might be haters, but like, he's getting like true wide receivers now with Rashad Bateman as basically an alpha. And then he's getting in, Hollywood's developing more. Maybe Tylan Wallace ends up being something. That the camp people are hyping up all the other guys who I think are Jags, but like they have. I can't get behind Duvernay, but like that. He's competent. Like, as a wide receiver 5, like, he's fine on your team. Like,
he's a good special teams player.
The thing is that I think that he can take over that Willie Snead role in that offense.
Yeah.
And yes, that's going to sound ridiculous, but it actually could be relevant.
Willie Snead was like one of the more consistent guys on that team, actually. If you look back, I mean, his fantasy production wasn't great. Like he'd get you like 6-7 points a game, but like
it
was consistent.
40 yards per game.
Yeah. Anything else on Lamar? Are we good to go to
The running backs?
What was it called?
Let's go to the backs.
Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
did we do
Oh.
Baker?
Oh,
We didn't do Baker.
This kind of does stay in line with Baker. We're just all like, we're kind of split. Some have us as underrated. I actually kind of said Baker was a little overrated, but I still like Baker. When we were talking about like, it's tough decisions because we're making our picks of overrated, underrated on every single player. You can't just say that they're going to be equal. But I mean,
that's exactly what I did. I said he's pretty.
No, 14 is fair.
rated.
I wrote underrated, saying a couple spots higher, mostly for the fact of like, do I think Joe Burrow's 6 spots higher than Baker? I don't know. It's that much better.
I think
it's not even just 6 spots though. It's if you look at the gap,
tier.
It is possibly multiple first-round pick level gap between the two of them,
definitely
which is ridiculous.
If you were going to try and trade Baker Mayfield to the Joe Burrow owner, like you'd have to include 2 firsts. You're not getting 1 first in Baker or Joe Burrow. You'd want more than that. So
would you?
I think so.
People are really.
I don't know about 2 firsts, but you definitely
maybe like a first and a second.
I mean,
the problem with Baker is that if you are a contending team and you have him as your QB2, you can go ahead and say, oh, well, I like Baker and he was good at the end of last year. But you cannot tell me that you are very confident in Baker to be a top 10 quarterback. As a rebuilding team, he has just as much talent as any other person in the league, basically, not already in like the top 6 quarterbacks. So like, I like Baker Mayfield a lot at his price. And like, dude, you like if we were to play the game, we plot Baker into this rookie class. Where is he getting picked? He's probably going outside of the top 7. Like, I don't think you could trade Baker Mayfield for a top 7 rookie pick, which I think kind of cements why Baker is such a good value buy. It's just if you're looking to win games and find a consistent quarterback too, you might as well buy Ryan Tannehill, who is basically the opposite of Baker, where like, okay, he's going to put up numbers. You just don't know how long. Baker is, he has the talent, but you don't know if he's going to put up the numbers necessarily.
Yeah, I think Baker is like, I mean, he was mine and someone else's. He was mine and Jake's. Like, we're most confident that he's going to maintain his value. Like, I just think
he's gonna finish a low end QB1, high end QB2, and he's young. He's gonna be around the same value come this time next year, in my opinion. I don't see him jumping up super high. I don't see him bottoming out. I think he's a guy that's a very safe investment if you're looking to buy a quarterback around, like I said, low QB1, high QB2.
Yeah, exactly what I think. You guys have any more thoughts on Baker?
It's just funny to think that his price is probably closer to Mac Jones than it is to Joe Burrow.
well, yes. When you say that, yes.
Yes, because in this rookie draft, he wouldn't go ahead of Lawrence, Lance, or Fields probably, or Wilson. I think Wilson would go ahead.
I would take Baker over Wilson, but simply because I know what Baker
personally would,
is.
but I'm saying like consensus. I
take Baker over if we're talking rookies. I take him over Najee too, but that's about where I'd cut it off.
And this is your obligatory Mac Jones is underrated. Let's move to the running backs.
I disagree. But all right, moving on to running backs now. I'll just knock out all these guys right away. We've got Joe Mixon, running back 16. Chris Evans, the rookie backup, running back 62. Samaj Priyan, running back 88. Trevion Williams, running back 90. And Puka Williams, not ranked on Keep Trade Cut. And then the Ravens, you've got J.K. Dobbins, running back 12. Gus Edwards, running back 37. Justice Hill, running back 86. The Browns have Nick Chubb, running back 7. Kareem Hunt, running back 23. Dearness Johnson, not ranked. And Demetric Felton, the rookie, not ranked. And then the Steelers have Najee Harris, running back 9. Benny Snell Jr., running back 83. Anthony McFarland, running back 68. And Kalen Ballage, who's not ranked. Those are all the running backs. I think the best place to start probably is we'll keep with the Steelers first, I think. And Najee Harris, the rookie. he was actually Lounis in my eyes most overrated at running back 9. We all across the board do say he's overrated. It's just Lounis and I say he's the most overrated. I guess I could
Out of that group.
Yeah, if I'm,
I'll make my comment quick first, so you can go in, JT.
Yep.
I still do think he'll have a very productive rookie year. He's not my favorite rookie running back in this class. We think we're all like Javonte more, but I do think he'll have the most productive rookie season out of all the backs, just because of the amount of touches he's going to get. He's going to get a shit ton of touches in Pittsburgh, and I think he'll have a really good season. It's just RB9 and Dynasty still really high. If you're throwing in Javonte, a lot of those guys from last year who are now entering their second year, guys like Akers, Dobbins, Swift, Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and obviously Taylor. Like, also with the top guys, you got Saquon back, CMC back. RB9 is just a little bit too high, and that was probably the one I thought the most, which was overranked, because I'm fine with Nick Chubb's ranking and I'm fine with Mixon's and Dobbins.
Yeah, my thing on Najee, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, comparing him as a prospect, like, I think the reason he's so high is because he's a rookie, and people are like, "Oh, rookie running back, like you're gonna get him for a few years," but like, he's the same age as basically all of the 2020 running backs. Like, he's not younger than most of them. He's the same age or even older. So then, when they're talking about prospects too, right? Najee Harris was not a better prospect than DeAndre Swift or J.K. Dobbins. You could argue CEH. But I'd still rather have CEH over Najee Harris. There's like a lot of those 2020 running backs I'd still rather have over Najee Harris. And then a lot of the older running backs I still think do have a couple more years in them. I would also rather have than Najee Harris, like Aaron Jones, like Joe Mixon, who we'll get to in a little bit, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders. Like, there's a lot of running backs I'd rather have than Najee Harris, because I just don't think Najee Harris is it. I don't think Najee Harris is good. I've said he's a bust before. He's like in my second round. I have a second round grade for him for rookie drafts. I am not a Najee Harris guy. Yeah, I see you giving me that, but
no, hold on. The first one he gave you that look for was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm with JT. I think I'd rather have Clyde.
It's close.
No. Just
Bro,
no.
What have you seen? What have you seen from Najee Harris that
term?
makes you think he's better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I mean, the dude hasn't played an NFL game, but he was one of the most productive running backs in all of college football.
And that's easy when you're behind the Alabama offensive line. Trent Richardson was one.
Okay, hear me out. You say he's the same age as the 2020 running backs, which I agree with. That's a fact. But
he's the same age as Ronald Jones.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. But anyways. So just compare him to the 2020 running backs then, right? If he comes in and puts up the same season that DeAndre Swift has, heading into next year, who's the higher rated running back? If they're the same
Swift.
age in it, why?
If he has the same rookie season as DeAndre Swift?
No. Same as DeAndre. If he just basically comes in and produces like a second year running back, then
he's not going to. That's my thing. He's not going to produce like a second year running back.
Okay, that's why it's a hypothetical, JT.
Okay, no, but Jake, if your hypothetical happens, then Najee would be ahead.
But it's not going to. But yeah, if it does happen, sure.
Because I think there's a very good chance Najee Harris has a better season than DeAndre Swift. A very, very good chance.
DeAndre Swift can be a running back. DeAndre Swift, I mean, I know this is completely biased.
The Steelers' offense will be better than the Detroit offense. There is no doubt.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
And we'll have more opportunities to score, and therefore
most offenses were better. Most offenses were better than the Jaguars. James Robinson was still running back 5, 3. He was up there. He was undrafted. Like I get tired of this. It's not really though. Yeah, there's so many running backs on bad teams that perform. And when you have someone that's going to be like second on their team in targets in DeAndre Swift, like how are you going to tell me that Najee Harris is going to outproduce DeAndre Swift in PPR? He's just not. It's not going to happen.
Najee Harris was a good receiver.
Yeah, Najee Harris.
All right. Well, I've heard enough of this. I've heard enough of these narratives and this bull crap. Let's get into the guy that just did a whole analysis on this exact topic. This exact freaking topic. So I got a few things I want to say, because after watching a lot of film and really diving into the past of Matt Canada, I heavily disagree with the narrative that Najee Harris is going to get fed like one of the premier running backs in the NFL. And here is why. Lounis, how how much of a workload do you expect Najee Harris to get? Name a running back that you think his workload will be similar to.
Trying to think in general. I was thinking around 280, 300 touches.
Okay. I am projecting him in 17 games to get about 258 touches, which would be like 245.
Oh yeah, I forgot it's 17 games. Then yeah, definitely 300 touches. 300
yeah,
to
so like
315.
I project his workload to be more similar from a pure running perspective to that of David Montgomery than that of prime Le'Veon Bell or Derrick Henry or whoever one of these other running backs. But the X factor is actually something that Jake said. Najee Harris as a receiver brings something to the table that basically no other running back brings to the table. And that's that he is a legitimate vertical threat as a running back. We have not seen this before. And that is, at least in my opinion, the reason we saw him get picked 24. Because you could say, oh, DeAndre Swift is a great receiver. DeAndre Swift is not a threat vertically. He cannot win a 50-50 ball.
I think, who are some receivers I've seen go running backs? I saw Miles Sanders do a couple times this rookie year. I think
Miles Sanders he's one of the few that has that type of potential. But I think it's more long speed than anything.
You can talk about it a bunch of times. We've seen Kareem Hunt do it. We've seen Saquon do it as well. But
personally, I think Trey Sermon could do it out of this rookie class.
Sermon vertical.
What's that face, Frank?
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt, Sermon. I think that Kareem Hunt, listen, I think that
lined up as a slot receiver a lot of the time.
But Le'Veon Bell was a slot receiver. That doesn't mean that I'm going to put Le'Veon Bell one-on-one against a halfway decent corner and throw a 50-50 fade. I think that Najee Harris is a dude that, if you have a linebacker on him on an island, not only is it a bad matchup, it's a terrible matchup. And you can extend that into a lot of the current NFL corners, in my opinion, just because Najee Harris is like a tight end. You know, he's a big-ass dude, and he has insane body control better than a lot of current receivers in the NFL do, which is the big X factor. With that being said, really quickly, I don't think he's going to be one of these Alvin Kamara-like receivers, though. He's not going to be a guy that gets 10 targets a game. At least I don't think.
No.
The thing
I don't
though,
think that either, but he is still a good wide receiver.
Is that the targets that he does get are going to be very good. I don't know what the right word for it is,
efficient,
but high value targets. He's going to get, especially in this Matt Canada offense where guys are going left, right, and freaking center. Guys are going all over the place. He's going to get vertical plays, right? Rails, wheels, just run it down the field. Let me throw up one-on-one, and a whole lot of red zone targets, which that is what's going to carry Najee Harris. I actually think that Najee Harris isn't as bad as what you guys are saying. It's just RB9 is tough. RB9 is a really tough price to buy him at.
Also, though, unfortunately for Najee Harris, he's the fourth wide receiver on the team, just automatically. You've got Chase Claypool, Juju, and Deontay there.
It's different because he's gonna be on the field. He's gonna be running routes out of the backfield.
Yeah, but he's not.
They're gonna motion him out of the backfield with those receivers still on the field. It doesn't I understand what you're saying but when he runs a route, he's gonna be higher than the fourth progression on a lot of these plays that are gonna be run here.
Also, if you look at Matt Canada's track record, he has unbelievably good success with running backs, and Najee Harris might be the most talented. Monty Ball, James White, Melvin Gordon, that offense at Wisconsin was ridiculous. It put over 3,000 rushing yards. He had great success with James Conner in Pittsburgh, the college Pittsburgh. He had over 1,000 yards, five yards a carry, 16 touchdowns. Darius Geis and Darrell Williams at LSU. Darius Geis, 1,200 yards, over 10 touchdowns. Anthony McFarland, 1,000 yards. Everywhere this guy goes, his running backs produce.
If you guys want to hear a funny stat, it's actually, I was listening to Pardon My Take, and they were talking about the Wisconsin versus Nebraska game in 2014, where there was Melvin Gordon and crew. And it was Melvin Gordon rushed for over 400 yards against Nebraska. And then like in the following year, it was like Melvin Gordon had over 200, James White had over 200, and what's his name? Monty Ball had like over 200. It was something
Dude,
crazy
in that
like
game, in that game I was watching, Nebraska against Wisconsin, the Big 12 championship, Melvin Gordon destroyed them on jet sweeps. His first 2 carries were both jet sweeps. He took them both to the house, like 60+ yard touchdowns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon was ridiculous in college.
I don't know how.
And they had James White and Monty Ball. Like,
No,
Yeah.
but kind of going back to the original point, I do agree with you that Najee Harris will be extremely productive in the offense. And I actually, to give the offense kind of more credit, and it's also might be a lack of faith in his backups, even though I actually don't hate Benny Snell. I think he's a decent backup. I just think, I don't know, I think they're going to want to put less pressure on Big Ben to throw 40+ times every single game and just kind of feed this new running back. They just spent a first-round pick on him. Like, how many times have we seen that first-round pick running back get just a shit ton of carries, like around 20, 22 touches every game? And that's where I think he'll be productive. And I could see him finishing in that 12, 13 range. But to say RB9 with some of the guys, especially who are entering their rookie year and still those top guys, I can't put him that high. Or entering their second
that's
year.
the problem, though, is that looking at the Matt Canada offense, they're still going to do all this motion and jet sweep stuff and shovel passes and crap, which, like, they will run the ball. It's just not going to be Najee Harris 25 times. At least I don't think. That's not what I'm predicting.
Here's the thing. So here's what I'll ask you. How many carries do you expect running backs not named Najee Harris to get per game?
Hold on. I got to do some math on this calculator really quickly.
I like that you have a calculator right there to do this math.
No, it's my phone.
Oh.
Okay, let me
professional
see.
podcast there.
So let's just say 423 is the average carries that I'm predicting they do, minus Najee's 245. So I would think somewhere between 150 to 170 carries.
So that's
out of 400 carries. So about 40% of the carries.
So that's
35%.
10 carries a game to running backs not named Najee Harris.
Well, it
Yeah.
wouldn't just be running backs
Rough.
too, though. Like you could do like a sweep to Juju or something.
It would be wide receivers, other running backs, and tight ends.
Okay.
And fullbacks. All basically
the
every
moose
other
sweep?
player. And then the occasional Big Ben scramble.
The Big Ben QB sneak is electric.
He's graceful when he's out on the open field.
I don't know, I like Najee Harris now. Like I don't hate him. His price is high at RB9. I'm not sure I'd pay RB9 price, but I don't think it's terribly far off of his value. I think the problem with Najee Harris is that I just like Javonte Williams as a better buy for the price. I think that they're both pretty good talents. It's just there are better purchases for your money than Najee Harris, but that doesn't mean that Najee Harris is a bad buy.
I'm more with Frank on this one. I've been watching some Najee, and he's really been growing on me lately. So I do think running back 9's high, but overall not bad.
The last thing too, though, is that Ben's gonna dump the football off to him, and Najee's got good hands and he's smart. So that was one thing with Le'Veon that was always so good, is that when Ben wanted to just get rid of the football, it's okay. Where's Le'Veon Bell? Let me just flip it to him. James Conner was never able to really do that. They just didn't really have the chemistry.
But before we move on, are there any other Steelers running backs that you want to own from this team? Like, are you trying to get any of these guys on your roster?
I mean,
Kalen Ballage is interesting. I know that they liked him a lot coming into the draft. Whenever he got drafted,
Dude, it's Ballage.
I want no part of Kalen Ballage.
We've seen this before.
I don't think there's too much to discuss after.
Yeah, he was not
I think
great.
Benny Snell is the main hand. Who would you have? Okay, I guess the only real question regarding Steelers running backs not named Najee is, who do you think's the better handcuff to have between McFarland and Benny Snell?
McFarland.
You think McFarland? Frank, who do you think? I kind of lean Snell, but Jake knows McFarland better than I do.
McFarland's good, dude. He's really fucking good. I mean,
I think you guys are fundamentally misunderstanding how the Steelers work, though. This is a team that, you can scoff at Kalen Ballage all you want, but if they liked him coming out of the draft and they target him in free agency, he could have a role. If there's a team that's going to turn some guy's career around, it'd be Pittsburgh. You know, like if you
I
look
mean,
at
they
every
went
player
out
that
and-
leaves Pittsburgh, they die.
They went out and drafted McFarland and Snell, both with pretty high draft capital. I think it was 3rd round or 4th round.
Yeah.
So
I think McFarland would be interesting, though, just because he also was the running back under Canada. And I think if there's going to be someone to – because I think the Steelers are going to do more 22 personnel than people expect. 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. That means that McFarland could definitely be one of those dudes that's getting end arounds. Getting those jet sweeps and crap and little bullshit in the Matt Canada offense. I guess the other one is Derek Watt, but you're not going to roster him.
yeah.
All right, moving on then. We were just talking about Najee being our most overrated. How about our most underrated? Basically across the board, I was a little different. But Nick Chubb, as running back 7, we're saying most underrated. At least Frank is saying that, Lounis is saying that, Jake's saying he's confident that he'll maintain his value at running back 7. So we're basically all saying Nick Chubb underrated.
There's a chance Nick Chubb. I'd be willing to bet on Nick Chubb be finishing in the top 4 running backs next year.
I mean, top 4 is kind of, yeah. I think almost
because I think you're going to see McCaffrey. I think you'll see it's going to come down to the wire. Obviously, if some guys miss a game or two, but I think in terms of production, he's going to be up there in that tier with Derrick Henry, Cook, Kamara, Saquon, McCaffrey. I think he's like right in that discussion for next season.
Yeah, the other thing with Chubb too, though, is that he has like the Browns do a good job with Hunt and Chubb, like load managing them to a certain extent. On top of that, Nick Chubb, I truly do believe has Hall of Fame level talent. So I think those 2 factors combined, yeah, Nick Chubb might not be the overall RB1 because he's not getting 400 touches, but he's still young. And I think that he'll have more longevity than your average running back would.
that's fair. I also, he's probably the one that's like a running back that I think is 25 or older that I still would have on my team 4 years from now, just theoretically speaking, and still producing in kind of like a high fashion. So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything negative we have to say about Nick Chubb? Is there anything
I think we
like
all love Nick. I think we all love Nick.
Yeah,
Chubb.
There's only one of him.
We only have one. Well, all right. Moving on though from Nick Chubb and staying with the Browns.
The Browns backup running back now.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt.
Jake is gonna freaking go crazy.
I didn't put B there. I didn't put B there.
I did. I put B
Look
there.
at me. Look at that guy.
Kareem Hunt, backup tone for me. He's my backup. Obviously. Say it, Jake. You're covering your mouth. What do you want to say?
He's not a goddamn backup.
I feel like this is like that scene from Rick and Morty when I forget who was it. It was like the that evil Morty where it's just like, oh, we're just sidekicks. And then that really pisses off like Rick, the actual Rick's Morty. Like that's JT to Jake right now. Like Kareem Hunt, he's just a backup. Like
I know exactly what you're talking about, Frig.
Kareem Hunt,
a sidekick.
You're just a sidekick. He's just a sidekick.
Kareem Hunt didn't have that many more carries than Adrian Peterson. How does that make you feel, Jake? Last year, Kareem Hunt, who started 4 games,
sidekick, Jake. He's just a
started
sidekick.
4 games, did not have that many more carries than Adrian Peterson. So tell me how he's not backup.
My guy. First off, Adrian Peterson started games last year. Whatever.
Not 4.
But, what?
He didn't start 4 games like Kareem Hunt did.
Whatever. Kareem Hunt outtouched him significantly. Kareem Hunt had so many receptions last year, and you know that. So don't even start me with this, just carries bullshit. Kareem Hunt is not a backup. Frank alluded to this earlier. Frank said they do a good job, quote-unquote, load managing, which means if you actually watch the Browns games down the stretch when they were winning football games, they gave Chubb his drives, and they gave Hunt his drives. And they were both very productive on all of them. I love both of these guys, and I will continue to love both of these guys. He's not a backup. He is the 1A, and that is what it is.
When the game starts, who's the running back on the field?
Sometimes it's Kareem Hunt. It really depends on the game plan,
No,
JT.
it's Nick Chubb.
You got to watch the games more then.
I watch the games. I
don't think you pay attention.
It's Nick Chubb.
It's not always Nick Chubb. It's not.
Nick Chubb is
anyone who's watching this, let us know in the comments what running back ranking you think Kareem Hunt finishes at this year. This has been an ongoing debate.
Nick Chubb missed 4 games and still outcarried Kareem Hunt. So how are you telling me that Kareem Hunt's getting more? Like, that's just not true.
Look at total touches, JT.
Well, no, Nick Chubb's going to get
touches.
Nick Chubb's going to have more total touches than Hunt. I just think Hunt's still going to get his own and still be productive, but it's not going to be more than Chubb.
I'm not saying Hunt is better than Chubb. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying he's better than a lot of starting running backs in the league. He's the 1A, and they both get their own drives. That's what happens here. They don't even, like, when they give him a drive, he gets the whole drive. They don't take him out. They give him a full drive.
Yeah, if you guys are watching the stream, this is Jake. This is Jake right here. Call me a sidekick one more time.
I'm not even watching our own stream, so I don't know what you're putting up there, but
it's very funny.
Is it the Morty?
Call me a sidekick one more time. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. Well, how do you guys feel about Demetric Felton? That's the last thing I'll say about the Browns.
Depends on what his price is.
I mean, he's not ranked, so I think he's underrated.
Yeah, so, I mean, if he's not ranked, that's what.
The thing is, though, after this year, isn't like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, aren't they both nearing the end of their current contracts? Like, isn't Kareem Hunt a free agent next season, and then Nick Chubb a season or two from now?
Give me 1 second.
I thought they signed at least Hunt. I thought signed a 2-year extension.
Yeah, but I don't know when that started.
I don't know, but I was coming from the perspective that if one of these running backs are leaving relatively soon, Demetric Felton brings a nice, interesting little skill set.
Kareem Hunt has this year and then next year, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. And then Nick Chubb.
The thing is, though, is that they're going to have to pay Baker, right? And then they're going to have to also pay Chubb. They're
only going to keep one of them in the long term, and the other will be a starter somewhere else.
Chubb's a free agent after this year.
Well, see, that's the thing is Kareem Hunt, does he have an out in his contract that's like he might just end up being a cap casualty because they're going to probably pay Baker Mayfield as well, at least we're assuming, which is going to eat up a nice, sizable chunk of cap space.
See, this is the big reason why people thought they were going to trade Odell too. There's a few players they can trade. They still have Landry and Odell under pretty big contracts, so I'm going to be surprised if one of them got moved.
There's a good shot, now that you pointed it out, that that Hunt is a cap casualty because he has 0 dead cap next year. So
yeah,
he'll get picked up. He'll be a starter somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm not saying that as a detriment of Hunt. That might actually be better. But Demetric Felton, though, could take in that role just because I think that he does provide an interesting skill set that doesn't really show up when you look at him as like his prospect profile. He tested terribly. But as a number 2 guy, he could be interesting in the future. I'm just not sure he's going to really have any role this year.
All right, let's move on. We're starting to get close on time here. J.K. Dobbins and the Ravens, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. Basically, all of us except Jake said that J.K. Dobbins was the most underrated, and I said that I was the most confident that he would be the one to maintain his value. Jake said he was overrated, and he was the most overrated player here. Frank, can you do me a favor, please? In your Jake impression, what does Jake say we should do to all Ravens?
Sell all Ravens! Sell all Ravens!
Thanks, I just wanted that.
If you actually listen back, the one Raven I say not to sell is J.K. Dobbins.
Well, then why is he the most overrated?
Because he's not going to finish running back 1. So that's why. He's not going to finish a running back 1.
I think he can.
Here's the debate.
I just don't think he will.
Here's where Jake's thing could be right, but he's still RB12. He could not finish RB12 next season, but he's still a top 12 dynasty running back.
Yeah, I mean, the people above him currently that are older it's like Derrick Henry and like Nick Chubb, Cook, and Kamara.
Because I could easily see Dobbins like for
And
next
McCaffrey.
season individual ranking being like RB 14 or 15, but he's still in my top 12 running backs of who I'd want in a startup dynasty draft.
Yeah, that's Jake this episode for those watching on YouTube.
I don't know what he put up there.
I
I'm not
can't see
watching.
either, Jake. They're in the middle.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I want to say something with J.K. Dobbins though, because J.K. Dobbins, this first off, the Ravens are the best rushing football team in the NFL.
You just have the
So-
Morty over me the whole time.
Yeah, not the whole time, just for a little bit. Yeah, this is the best rushing football team in the NFL. J.K. Dobbins, the reason I think he slid in the draft and is the reason I had a second round grade on him coming out, even though I liked him as a pure runner, he sucked ass as a receiver. I think he has the potential to improve, and apparently he's working on it, but he did suck ass as a receiver in college. So
We did see that camp report how Harbaugh wants to get Dobbins involved
yeah,
in
but that's
more
every
receiving
running
games.
back though.
Yeah.
It's every
Josh
single running
Jacobs.
back ever.
Josh Jacobs
Um,
was supposed to see a huge increase in receiving, and I don't think he did at all.
But
Last
the
season?
thing is that
Yeah.
as a red zone threat, they're going to run J.K. Dobbins. They're going to find creative ways to get the ball in his hands without him having to actually catch it. I love Dobbins. Even as a Steelers fan, he's an unbelievably talented pure runner.
Yeah.
I agree. I just don't think there's enough touches to go around in that offense. Like I said, moving on to, I think this is a good transition to a guy that I wanted to touch about personally was Gus Edwards, who just signed another contract extension. He's the guy that I listed as the most underrated running back in this division. He's the backup I want to own in this division. I think he's a guy that will get his own probably 7 to 10, 11 touches a game by himself to go along with Lamar rushing the ball and Dobbins rushing the ball. So overall, I think you're going to get games where, Lamar gets his, or you can get other games where it's Dobbins and other games where it's Edwards. So I just think all these guys in terms of rushing capabilities outside of Lamar, because he's always going to get his, in terms of Dobbins and Edwards, I think you're going to go see some games where they're very inconsistent. So that's just my opinion on there, just because I think it's going to be hard for them both, along with Lamar, to all be consistent every single game in and game out.
Yeah,
That's right. It's tough to say because Dobbins is such a pure runner, but that is a good point, Jake, where it's like how many carries a game is this offense going to have to distribute to them? Because Gus is going to get, like you said, around maybe like 8 carries. I think the bigger fear with Gus is he's pretty good at the goal line. Does he get some of those goal line touches?
Yep, I think he's the better goal line
But
back.
last year, J.K. Dobbins was the guy who was scoring all the touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He was almost
J.K.
guaranteed
Dobbins-
a touchdown a week.
Dobbins and Swift were like 2 of the most efficient guys on the
Yeah,
goal
and that's
line.
the other thing
Speaking
too,
of
is that
this
the
division-
Ravens' rushing offense is insanely efficient. So for the Ravens, as a running back, especially with Lamar Jackson, getting 15 carries is similar to getting, 20 carries if you're on the Jets last year, maybe even freaking 50. Like, you're not doing anything on the Jets. All right, speaking of the Jets, let's move into the worst team in this
Oh
division.
my God. So mean. All right. Well, Bengals, Joe Mixon. He's probably the one. We coined the phrase Joe Mixon paradox early in this
Joe Mixon paradox.
podcast.
We still have that bet. We
Foundation.
still have that bet with me and Jake about Mixon versus Miles Sanders, right?
Yeah, I don't think we ever decided.
We
on what
never
happens,
decided the
but-
wager,
What?
but we'll think of it soon.
Was it just that Mixon finishes higher than Sanders?
Sanders, yeah. If there's a major injury,
Oh,
we can call it
yeah.
off. But
Yeah. That's
Okay.
definitely happening. So,
We're all kind of all over the board a little. I'm saying Joe Mixon's the most underrated at running back 16. Frank's saying overrated. Lounis is most confident he'll keep his value. He's just the one that everyone just doesn't know how to evaluate.
yeah,
Like
I have him. I think he'll finish next year as a high-end RB2. That's why I'm like that seems. Right.
I think he's a low end RB1, but then at that point he is going to be. I think he's 25 right now, right? Maybe he's 24, but like then he'll be a little older, so it's kind of like whatever. I don't know. I do think Joe Mixon is like he's the one that like if you were to like pick someone that's not in the top 12 running backs to finish as the RB1 overall, like Joe Mixon is up there for me as that person that would finish as the running back
That's
one
actually
overall.
an interesting question. We should do that in the segment. Like people.
Yeah, we
who are,
could
like,
hold that for
not
later.
in the top 12 in their positions, best chance to finish number one. Is that
We have a lot of time till preseason and the regular season, so we can fit that in somewhere. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this? I mean, we kind of spent a lot of time on the running backs.
Yeah, here's the problem with Joe Mixon.
Okay.
Here's the problem with Joe Mixon.
Jake's ready?
You want to know what the
Why me? I'm just here.
No,
I'm
you're
just
the
here
Joe
for-
Mixon defender.
You know how like the number one indicator of success for people is where you grew up, like how affluent the area you were growing up is.
Yeah, like
That
you
is
said.
the problem that Joe Mixon suffers from, is that he's a great talent. Honestly, you watch the Bengals games on tape, and you're like, holy crap, Joe Mixon is insane, unbelievably talented running back, better than RB16. I agree with that, but you have him on just the worst area to grow up in as a running back. You have a coaching staff that I think is just trash. I think they are I would pick them last, probably, of
In the
all the
whole
coaching
league?
staff in the whole
In
league.
the whole league?
Yes,
Out
in the
of
whole
current
league,
ones,
probably.
yeah, because that's interesting. You can't include Gase anymore because he got replaced.
I mean, have you met
Like
Matt
maybe
Nagy
him
the
and like
Bears?
Sirianni
True.
and like the other dudes that are just completely unproven. It's like
But
those
not
are the ones.
dude.
Maybe Vic Fangio if we're going from a fantasy perspective.
Matt Nagy? Anyone? The Bears suck.
Matt Nagy, listen, David Montgomery was like RB4 or 5 last year, so you can crap at Matt Nagy all you want. He at least produced a damn good running back. And I think Joe Mixon's more talented than David Montgomery is. That's just a
100%.
testament to how bad this coaching staff is and how bad this offense has been, is that they have wasted Joe Mixon's career. And we can always scream talent over situation, but when your situation is taking a running back with top 10 talent and consistently keeping him out of there, why am I buying into him? The clock is ticking on Joe Mixon's career, and I don't think the Bengals are going to help him out at all ever until they actually get someone with a head on their shoulders.
That was fiery. I kind of like that. Anyone else?
Joe
have-
Mixon paradox,
Frank's-
overrated. Staying
Frank's
away.
Damn, why do Bengals fans
Dude,
hate me, man?
The other thing too, though, is that Joe Mixon, he's RB16. You have to pay top 10 around RB. You have to pay like RB13 price.
Well, that's
for.
where the
Okay,
Joe
that's not
Mixon
biggest
paradox
difference,
comes
but-
in. That's the Joe Mixon paradox.
You know,
That
it's
is
all,
the
you
Joe
know,
Mixon paradox.
beginning of the season, beginning of the offseason, maybe he was a good buy. But now his ADP is rising. Everyone's like, oh, well, Joe Mixon's underrated. It's like his ADP goes with the weather. Once the weather gets cold and football season actually starts getting played, the Bengals screw him up or he gets hurt. And he's like, okay, well, it's Joe Mixon. And then all of a sudden, you look at the tape and you're like, holy crap, this is a good guy. The Bengals, they may not be a terrible team this year. He's going to be, and then all of a sudden, he's going to do Joe Mixon paradox.
Yeah.
He's gonna do Joe Mixon paradox. It's a verb now.
It's hard to
It's transcended.
it's hard to like evaluate Joe Mixon for what he is because of injuries and how the Bengals have been. And I still really like him, the player, but we'll see. Anyway, which guy is the backup tone on this team, and then we'll move on. Like, is it Chris Evans?
No,
Chris
it's
Evans, the guy we're
Peterman.
buying?
Yeah,
Give
you're
me the
on-
roster spot.
yeah.
Free roster spot. All right. Well, let's move on.
Samaj P. Ryan probably for me though.
Okay.
Yes.
Sticking with the
The
Steelers.
locker
as our-
room presence of the
Samaj
older P.
P.
Ryan
Ryan.
brother.
Yes.
Moving on to wide receivers, we'll kick it off with it. I'll just run through everyone real quick. Jamar Chase on the Bengals, wide receiver 8. T. Higgins, wide receiver 17. Tyler Boyd, wide receiver 40. On Tate, wide receiver 134. Mike Thomas, not ranked. Marquise Brown on the Ravens, 58. Rashad Bateman, actually 35. Tylen Wallace, 82. Sammy Watkins, 112. Miles Boykin, 133. Devin Duvernay, 99. James Prochet, not ranked. The Browns, OBJ, wide receiver 44. Jarvis Landry, 52. Rashard Higgins, 98. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 83. Anthony Schwartz, 93. Kadero Hodge, not ranked. Then the Steelers, you got Juju, wide receiver 30, Chase Claypool, wide receiver 23, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 24, James Washington, wide receiver 106, and Ray McLeod, not ranked. And I think where we got to start is the Steelers, again, because they basically have what I would consider is 3 wide receiver 2s. I know Juju is ranked a little bit lower than that, but you got 3 wide receiver 2s, and you got Big Ben ranked outside the top 40 quarterbacks. Something's got to give here. Well, like it can't both happen. That's why I have basically all of the Steelers wide receivers as overrated, other than Juju, and I have Deontay Johnson as my most overrated. I don't know, Frank. You're the Steelers fan. There's 3 wide receivers that are all ranked basically the same. Who's the one that you're picking, and why are you picking that guy as the main wide receiver?
I just have to start this off. We did the NFC West last week, and I thought that entire division had underrated receivers. I look at the AFC North, and I see a division of overrated receivers. Even as a Steelers fan, like I like Deontay Johnson. I loved him coming out of school. He just really hasn't improved on his issues. He hasn't really gotten better as a football player from the project that he was coming out. Juju Smith-Schuster's all right. Man, I if I had to pick one, I'm going Chase Claypool because he legitimately has top end potential. I like Chase Claypool. I just think the problem is that take the Browns out of this equation. The Browns and Tylan Wallace, I guess just the Browns and the Ravens. You take them out, dude. I'm gonna sell high on all these Bengals and Steelers receivers right now. I don't want to buy them. I think they're good. But like you said, they're glorified wide receiver twos. I'd rather pay for a roster of Jarvis Landry's than pay for the Bengals and Steelers receivers right now.
Well, because here's the thing: when you glorify wide receiver 2, Claypool's already ranked wide receiver 23 here, and here's my issue and why I'm defending Claypool here especially. When we did Ayuk in the NFC West last week? What was Ayuk's ranking at? Like 17, 19, right?
Ayuk's his was 16 last week.
16.
Mm-hmm.
If Ayuk is 16, how like Claypool at 23 is not that much worse. I would rather have Claypool than Ayuk. If you ask me. And he's that many spots lower.
I think
you
I'm
guys
with
would
Lounis.
all rather Ayuk.
I would rather Claypool, Lounis.
I'd rather Claypool. Claypool's produced way more in a crowded receiver core, and even the weeks with the backup, he was still producing, and he has the build of a number 1 receiver. Like Ayuk, yeah, he had some more flashy plays, sure, but you got Debo. I don't know how much better than Debo he is. I give him the edge, but Debo's very talented as well. And then was it Kittle still there? I don't know. I really like Claypool, especially wide receiver 23. I think that's fair. I definitely don't think he's overrated at that spot. And if he is, then Ayuk to me is extremely overrated because I'd rather have Claypool than Ayuk.
Yeah, well, like you said, I think that Claypool of all these receivers on the Steelers is the best buy. Long term, I like his talent. I think he does have that alpha profile. Listen, I don't think that the Steelers receivers are going to be bad players. Like, I think that they'll produce around what their ranking is. But I think that the problem with the Steelers receivers and a lot of receivers in the league is that I can get Jarvis Landry for half of the price. I can get Odell Beckham for
the price.
Yeah, less than half the price, who will probably put up essentially the same numbers. And then with that value that I have acquired from selling Deontay Johnson into Odell or Jarvis Landry, I can go out and get in this is super flex, first off, not regular leagues, but in super flex, I can then use those assets to go get quarterbacks and running backs and tight ends that will actually make a difference for me if I'm trying to win. That's the problem I have with these receivers.
I don't think Landry's giving you the production of Claypool or Deontay Johnson, and I think they're both only going to get better.
Let's move on to them because we kind of all have the Browns as our underrated guys.
No, they're extremely underrated.
Yeah, we have OBJ as wide receiver 44.
44.
We almost across the board all said that he's the most underrated wide receiver.
2 years ago, he was like top 10.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I mean,
and then Jarvis Landry is wide receiver 52. Well, you gotta give him. He was on they didn't do well as the Browns 2 years ago, and then he was injured last year, so it's kind of hard to blame him. Really, I mean, I just think wide receiver 44, and he can actually be a legitimate wide receiver 1 contender is just that kind of price for that kind of production is crazy to me. I know that he's on the older side, but at the price you're buying him, which is
he's still one of the most talented receivers in the NFL.
Yeah,
talent-wise, he is.
Yeah, especially when you consider him with he's close to Julio Jones price, and he's a lot younger than not a lot younger, but he's certainly younger than Julio Jones by like 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's cheaper than Julio Jones, and he's on like an offense I think will pass more than the Browns will pass more than the Titans. I just feel like he's super underrated. I think Jarvis Landry's super underrated. It's just the whole offense itself. We'll get into it in a minute, but I think the Browns are the most underrated here.
Here's exactly my argument in a nutshell. If you look at keep trade cut, Chase Claypool in a trade for Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, apparently the Chase Claypool side is winning by like a 3rd round pick. I think that's the problem I have with the Steelers receivers is that consensus. Okay, yeah, Claypool is probably worth the most. Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson are still worth 1st round picks, it seems like, to a lot of people in the Dynasty community. Yet, dude, I could trade Chase Claypool into Odell, Jarvis Landry, or Jarvis Landry, Thielen, and another like a Cole Beasley. And who would I rather have if I'm a competing team and I needed receivers? Odell, Jarvis Landry, and Cole Beasley, or one Chase Claypool? Dude, I think we all know that answer.
Yeah, if you need wide receivers.
If you need multiple wide receivers.
It's not going to be sexy, but guess what? I'll be winning freaking games. You can go have all the cool little young receivers you want, but I'll gladly have depth and points.
Well, okay.
Claypool is, 22, 23 years old?
I don't think Claypool is the best example ever, just because I do think that, like, of all the Steelers receivers, Claypool's the best one to have. But still, like, that's the argument I have for all young receivers. Because let's go. I'm going to skip ahead.
Let's go to the Bengals ones.
Yeah, go to the Bengals.
JT on this.
T. Higgins. I could sell T. Higgins into an entire position group of receivers that I would rather have. If I'm going to win games, like, okay, if you're a rebuilding team, fine, go ahead, take T. Higgins because you want value and all that shit. I will sell T. Higgins right now for all the underrated receivers in the league and have a whole fucking squad. And bang, there's all my receivers. I just turned one dude, a 2nd round pick, into an entire receiving core.
Well, my only thing is, other than Jamar Chase, like out of this class, like I don't think T. Higgins is like I'd rather have T. Higgins than the rest of this class, other than Jamar Chase. And I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are both capable of putting up multiple wide receiver 1 seasons. I think these are like the cream of the crop guys. They're the alphas. They're the ones that are going to see. They're tied to a young quarterback who should be there for a long time. They're probably going to have to pass a lot.
Yeah,
Yep.
And I was kind of going off JT's point. I think Joe Burrow is going to be one of those guys that pass for a ton of yards every year, assuming he's healthy. And T. Higgins, what more did you want to see his rookie season? As soon as he started getting the opportunity to play, he started going off. He was outproducing Tyler Boyd. He was playing really well toward the end of the season. Even once Joe Burrow got hurt, he still had productive weeks. Like, I don't know. Obviously, he's not like a Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is just in a whole different stratosphere than any of those other rookies. But, like, I don't know. Like, that was a really successful rookie season. The wide receiver 17, I think, is pretty fair.
Yeah, but he's wide receiver 17. You got to pay top end price for him. To get T. Higgins for most owners, you have to pay what DJ Moore is probably worth, like that wide receiver 12 price to really get T. Higgins off their hands.
And how different are they?
I'm not the biggest DJ Moore fan out there, but I would take DJ Moore easily over T. Higgins.
Listen,
I don't think T. Higgins is a bad player. It's just, dude, I'm not paying wide receiver 1 price for T. Higgins. Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who has DJ Moore and really wants to trade from Jake for T. Higgins, I wouldn't trade DJ Moore for T. Higgins. I wouldn't even – I would have to consider T. Higgins in a first for DJ Moore, and I don't even think I'd do that. I wouldn't do that.
That's a big –
DJ Moore. DJ Moore is close to my wide receiver. DJ Moore is close to my wide receiver 5, dynasty wise. We could get into a whole thing.
Listen, I like
break down
DJ
the
Moore,
NFC South.
Like, that's
not really. Well, look, you gotta dive deep into DJ Moore as a player.
JT, I've watched DJ Moore for like 8 years. I watched him for 4 years at Maryland. Like
he didn't play 4 years at Maryland, so that's.
I know. That's why I
got him.
He was scouting him in high school.
Yeah. Thanks, Lounis.
I don't know, dude. There are three types of receivers. There are really top end receivers that are worth paying for and worth buying. There are overrated wide receiver 2 flex players, and then there's just underrated receivers that put up points but no one wants to pay for. T. Higgins, I think, is firmly in that overrated wide receiver 2. Dude, to be honest, I think that Cole Beasley is has just as good of a chance of putting up the same numbers that he does. It just won't be as sexy. And you guys can go ahead and laugh all you want. Go ahead. T. Higgins will score 30 more points. But, dude, I just saved a first-round pick and a half paying for Cole Beasley.
Probably saved more than that. Yeah. Well, that's probably what T. Higgins is worth around. So, yeah. All right. Well, we're kind of running low on time. Let's get into the Ravens and our last wide receivers, and then we'll go tight ends. I think Rashad Bateman is underrated. Jake thinks he's overrated. I've learned from this. Jake and I are basically split on most players in this division.
I'm with Jake now.
Rashad Bateman is wide receiver 35.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah,
it's a great thing.
You're going to want to reconsider.
It's a great thing.
No, I'm not talking about you. Disagreeing with you is always good. I'm saying
I'm talking. Yeah, see, you're disagreeing with me on something that we're agreeing on.
You got to be on the sides of the champs.
I was agreeing that you should reconsider being on the same side as Lounis. I just think Rashad Bateman, I hyped him up a little too high. A little bit of rookie fever was telling me he's like the next Devontae Adams. But I still think he's
telling me.
I still think Rashad, he's my wide receiver 2 out of this class. I'm staying firmly on that. I'm
he's
not
still
rating
wide receiver 2?
Yeah, he is.
Crazy.
He's friendly. And I'll tell you what, if I knew more about Terrace Marshall and his injuries, because now like he's not really practicing with the Panthers right now because he's injured. If I knew more about it, I knew he'd be healthy, I'd have him as my wide receiver 3. But like he's not healthy, so he's not my wide receiver 3. But he's close. He's close. Terrace Marshall is closer to Rashad Bateman than I think Jalen Waddle is. That's just where, and Devontae Smith's way out there. All my hot takes aside, let's focus on the Ravens.
Yeah, he's closer to Bateman towards like the 4 or 5 ranking.
Bateman, I think, is underrated. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 58. We all said
this is
underrated.
A crazy low ranking.
Yeah.
It's. I don't even like him as a
like,
player.
I'm not. I was gonna say I'm not even like a huge Hollywood guy, but 58. That's crazy.
It's just real low. 58's real low.
Especially after the end of the season he had, where like he was
still
finally starting
young,
to come on.
And it's not like he's had like the best deep passer throwing to him. Like I don't know, man. That's crazy low.
Only other thing is Tylan Wallace, wide receiver 82. We all said it was underrated. Most of us had him as the backup wide receiver to own.
Dude, there's a ton of value in this offense at the receiver position because I do think that the Browns, the Ravens, even though they run the ball a lot, I do think that this is an offense that has top 10 potential in the league, and we've seen it. That'll transition to points. It's just you look at it like Rashad Bateman. I'm not the biggest Rashad Bateman guy ever, but you look at it for the talent that you're paying for. I mean, you're getting Rashad Bateman under Juju, Deontay, and Claypool. You're getting him under all these receivers. Like, you're paying a closer price to Tyler Boyd than you are to T. Higgins, and he was just a first-round pick. So I think that Rashad Bateman, I've switched him from overrated to underrated. Same thing with Tylan Wallace and whatnot.
All right, let's finish with the tight ends and then break down the teams. So tight ends, we got Drew Sample on the Bengals, tight end 41, CJ Uzomah not ranked. The Ravens have Mark Andrews, tight end 6, Nick Boyle and Josh Oliver not ranked. The Browns have Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryan, and David Njoku. They're ranked tight end 20, 28, and 29 respectively. And the Steelers have Pat Freiermuth, tight end 15, and Eric Ebron, tight end 37.
I don't know what to talk about here besides Mark Andrews is really good outside of like that elite tier of tight ends, but he's one of like the very top, very good ones. And the Muth will wreak havoc on the AFC North.
The Bengals basically it's not worth really rostering their tight end. I personally still think CJ Uzomah is better, but like he's my backup talent.
It's going to be all the receivers and Joe Mixon.
This is a big tight end division, though. This is a division where outside of the Bengals, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Steelers, I expect all to run a lot of 2+ tight end sets, which is funny enough, actually doesn't really help tight end production. aside from Mark Andrews, like the Browns use like 8,000 tight ends, so
I was
you
gonna
don't
say the
know
Browns tight
who the
ends.
hell's
I
getting the
think
ball.
those targets between Hooper, Bryant, and Njoku, or all three, I think are talented tight ends. They're just going to be split so kind of evenly between those three. You can't really count on one to be your consistent week-to-week starter.
Is there an out in Hooper's contract after this year?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I like the Muth though. I think the Muth has legit top 10 potential that you're not paying for right now.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
going
I've
late
said it
especially in
second
rookie
rounds.
drafts. Yeah, in rookie drafts, you're not really
He's
paying
going
that
late
much
second
for.
round. Yeah, rookie
And-
drafts.
Yeah.
I know Pitts is kind of like the big fish, but after him, if you can snag Muth in the second round, I like that.
You know, one other thing too is that Matt Canada ran like I said it before with the running backs. I mean, he ran a ton of 22 personnel, and he got his tight ends involved on shovel passes over the middle. Dude, he's getting these guys the ball every freaking way. I think that could really transition to the Muth and him getting a little bit more usage than you expect. Does that mean he'll be fantasy relevant year one? Probably not. But once Ebron is void of the Steelers, the sky is the limit, I think, for the Muth.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to AFC North team most likely overperform. And despite Jake and I basically disagreeing this entire episode, we're somehow on the same page that we think the Browns are going to be the team that are most likely to overperform, while Frank and Lounis are on the same side saying the Ravens.
I was between the Browns and the Ravens.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I think we kind of justify what we were saying. Like, the Browns having no wide receivers even in the top 40 is pretty ridiculous. We all said Nick Chubb was one of the most underrated running backs, despite being running back 7. There's just a lot of value to gain. Now their tight ends are their top tight ends a tight end 20, and Baker Mayfield's like quarterback 14. So there's a lot of value to gain, and I think they're a team that actually is playing well. On the flip side, AFC North team most likely to underperform. Lounis and Frank are on the same side saying the Bengals. Jake's saying the Ravens, and I'm saying the Steelers. I think Frank and Lounis basically, mostly Frank, was justifying why all the Bengals fans hate him by bashing the Bengals once again. I think Jake.
I have a
Jake's
present for
doing...
the Bengals fans, actually. Hold on, let me get it.
Oh my god. That's gonna get us a lot of likes. Jake continuing his sell all Ravens thing, and I'm kind of on the page of the Steelers are all ranked really high, and I don't think any of them should be. So with that kind of sums up our AFC North teams. We got the Browns Browns and Ravens most likely overperform is kind of consensus. The Bengals most likely underperform is what I'd say as a podcast. Let's move into our final segment. We've got about 13 minutes left. It's rookies who underperform that we still believe in. Lounis, why don't you kick us off?
All right.
Here we go with the Eagles bias.
I'm going to throw y'all my Rager pitch. A little bit of a curveball.
It's a swing and a miss, strike 3. Go sit down, buddy.
No, okay. So Rager's not like a pure wide receiver 1 in the NFL, not going to be. I think Devontae Smith fits that mold better, which is a good thing the Eagles drafted him. But I think Devontae Smith being drafted actually does help Rager a lot. And we saw last year the entire offense was a shit show. He had that midseason injury where he missed like 7-8 weeks. It's a lot of lost ton reps. And then the QB play was atrocious. There was a decent amount of plays where Rager got open deep. But either the throw was underthrown, they missed them, overthrown, bad ball placement. And he was kind of robbed of a lot of like deep passes, which he did get open on. I think now, and what we also saw a lot last season is the Eagles' outside receiving options were really bad last year. So Rager a lot of times would see that outside corner, that number 1 outside corner on the opposing team. I think now having Devontae Smith across from him and them being able to move him around the field more, I think they're going to use him on a ton of crossers, just trying to get the ball in his hands. And he won't have to face that number 1 outside corner every snap like he did last year. Which I think is going to help him. I don't think he's built to be like that number 1 alpha, but I think he can be a really productive wide receiver too. He's going to have a full healthy training camp. Hopefully he stays healthy during the regular season. That was just kind of a weird injury he got against the Rams. So I'm a believer in him. I think he has a much better second season.
Hey, Lounis, do you know who went the pick after Rager in
Justin
the
Jefferson.
NFL draft? Yeah.
Justin Jefferson. Oh, and one other little thing about Rager, which I think is going to help him this year. So Rager did much better, according to PFF, against zone coverage than man coverage. And I think defenses aren't going to be able to play full-on man coverage against the Eagles this year with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. It's hard to have all those people besides those who are rushing having their back to a quarterback who takes off as often as Jalen Hurts does. So I think he's going to see zone a little bit more often next year, and he was a lot more successful against those kind of defenses in his rookie season. So that's my Rager case.
That's because no one played zone against the Eagles.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be more this season when you have Jalen Hurts who likes to take off running a shit ton of times.
All right, I kind of agree with you, Lounis. I still like Rager. I actually went out and traded for him, but then traded away him. But I do like Rager. I still think Rager is someone that is good. Jake, who's your guy?
I got a tight end. It's Adam Troutman on the Saints here. You know, he was a guy that I really liked coming out last year. He was, you know, the player of the year in whatever conference Dayton's in. I know it's a small little conference, but he's a very good receiving tight end. Jared Cook's out of there. Obviously, Drew Brees is out of there, which is, unfortunate. But I do think he's a guy that can step in and get some targets in a Saints offense that probably look pretty good with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and whoever's playing quarterback. I always have faith in Sean Payton. They took him in the third round. Draft capital is pretty high into a tight end. He's a guy that I've just liked for a long time, and I think he's finally going to get his opportunity now in his second year with Jared Cook going out to LA.
I like Troutman.
I don't hate the Troutman. I struggle with Troutman's value. I don't know where to put him. He's probably not someone I'm going out and buying, but he's not someone I'm upset if I have him on my team.
I believe he's like tight end 18 right now on Keep Trade Cut, if I'm correct. I'll double check that. But at that price of such a low tight end, you're not giving up much to get him. So I think it's worth it at that price, just for the upside that he's going to get here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can get him at that price, I like it. I think the problem is that I feel like most savvy players aren't going to give up Troutman for that cheap, though.
There's the issue too of like, you have this guy on your team, you probably like him, like you want to see what he's capable of. Just kind of like I'll transition to my guy too. That's kind of how I feel about Bryan Edwards, right? Like you don't have a whole lot of reason for justifying why you like him. Like you had your preconceived notions before the actual
the
NFL
Raiders
draft.
Twitter account tweeted a cool picture of him.
That's true. No, but if you do look at what the Raiders have done with their wide receivers, right? Like they didn't really like do a whole lot last year. Like Darren Waller was the wide receiver one basically.
And Aguilar just left.
Yeah, and Aguilar they let Aguilar walk. They brought in the likes of Willie Snead and John Brown. And then in the draft, they did pass over the likes of Bateman, Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore. In the third round, they passed over Diami Brown. There was like a lot of good wide receivers that they could have drafted if that's what they were looking to fix. Clearly, they still have belief in these guys. My thing is, though, I just like Bryan Edwards more than I like Henry Ruggs. I always have. I'm not a big Henry Ruggs guy. Sorry, Lounis, but I think Bryan Edwards will be the guy who's going to step in and be the wide receiver one on this team. I think, as Frank broke it down in an episode probably a few months ago at this point, when wide receivers who are drafted in the first round don't produce, that's kind of a red flag. But Bryan Edwards wasn't a first-round wide receiver. Like, he still has time to produce. I think it's more likely Bryan Edwards takes over as the wide receiver one on this team.
Yeah, that was mainly JT because 41% of first-round receivers, if they ever break out in their rookie year, whereas second-round receivers, if they ever break out, it's 31% in the second season, 31% in the third season, at least from like 2000 to 2011. So it kind of just goes to show you that second-round picks are truly more projects, but they have enough. Generally speaking, organizations have enough faith in them to kind of keep them around and keep them involved, whereas they don't have that crazy variance that a third-round pick does, where it's like third round beyond, most of these guys never hit. Second-round picks actually do have decent hit rates. It's like First round picks, 54% hit rate. Second round picks, 43% hit rate in terms of ever producing a top 24 season.
Mhm.
Going into my underrated McGee, I don't know, I have a couple. I guess there's like a real sleeper. This guy I really liked and he got hurt is Isaiah Hodgins. There was actually just a report the other day. Guys talking about him. I like Isaiah Hodgins.
I like him a lot too. He's a guy that I almost picked.
Yeah, he's probably on waivers in some leagues. So if you have roster spots, I think he's a decent player. There's a lot of it's really crowded in that Bills receiving room. I think that's the only thing, but you never know. The other guys, though, one is KJ Hamler. I wasn't huge on KJ Hamler coming out. I definitely was avoiding him, but I think that KJ Hamler is like a lot better than people are giving him credit for. It seems like he's gone into that worthless tier. Whereas I feel like if the Broncos actually had a good quarterback, that KJ Hamler could be pretty consistent and be actually like pretty good. Obviously with the situation they have right now, I think he's fucked, but if they ever pick up someone decent,
because Seth Williams is there.
yeah, if they ever pick up someone decent, he could become something. So you could pick him up for cheap if you think Aaron Rodgers is going there. And the last one, LaMichael Pirine, another guy I thought was all right coming out for cheap. You could pick him up. Another dude that no one is expecting anything out of. You might be able to pick him up for a 4th round pick. And he has some potential on a wide open backfield. But I'm not really huge into any of those dudes necessarily.
Yeah. If you guys don't have anything to add, I think that's episode 41 in the books. Thank you everyone for listening. Like, rate, review, subscribe, follow, all the comment.
If you're a Bengals fans, hit us with a dislike.
All right, I guess. It helps more than you guys know. We really appreciate everyone that listens to us argue with each other and debate stuff back and forth. I think
we'll have a contest of any Bengals commenters to have a one-on-one debate against Frank.
They could box Frank if they want. We'll
celebrity boxing.
Yeah, well, all the YouTubers are cashing in on it. We might as well try too. All right.
Yeah, that might be the first playoff win they'll have in 30 years.
Oh my God! See. All right, episode 41 in the books. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.